How rebuildable are Mercedes parts? When I ask this question, we have to frame it in a certain time period. And we're going to look at how Mercedes made parts in their cars serviceable from approximately 1950 all the way up to about 1990. Now, one of the reasons that I want to discuss this specific topic is because people always ask me this question: where can I get parts for? Where can I get parts from? It's an interesting question because it shows that people believe that just because something is old means that parts availability for it is going to be limited. And that's not necessarily true, because when you look at the part as a whole, sure, I'm not going to find an easily available warm-up regulator from Bosch. But the warm-up regulator itself, this is a rebuilt unit from our friends at CIS Flowtech. The warm-up regulator itself is made of a durable aluminum housing that can be disassembled. Its subcomponents do require some specialization. A diaphragm, an O-ring kit, maybe some specific hardware, a little bimetallic spring that controls the governor pressures. But for the most part, this is not one component. This is probably about 50 smaller components, the biggest of which is an aluminum housing, the smallest of which would be an O-ring or a screw or an embedded washer. I want all of you to hear me when I tell you this little secret. I never look at a part, a complicated part, a hard-to-find part, an obsolete part, as just one part. I look at it as the sum of its parts, and that's kind of how I've always seen things. Over 10 years ago, I had a Mercedes 600 in the shop, courtesy of my friends, the Lynx, who were kind enough to send me that car, and I learned a lot about repairability through that singular experience of working through some of the problems in the 600. And one of the things that I learned very, very clearly was that when Mercedes built cars in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, they were looking at not just the part as a whole, but its subcomponents. And while the part itself may have been a unique casting like the warm-up regulator, its subcomponents were more commonly available, especially the ones that failed. So there are categories of things that you can replace easily and categories of parts you can't. For example, an ignition switch on a 123 series is probably about 40 small parts. Springs, balls, a plastic housing, a metal housing. Maybe it's a little less than that. You can't take apart the ignition switch, unfortunately, and replace every single piece in the switch other than the aluminum housing. So you'd want to buy a whole switch from Mercedes, and that part going away would create a big problem. But if you look at something similar from that era, say a clock or an odometer, most shops would want to replace the whole odometer assembly because they don't understand how the entire assembly works and how its hundreds of parts fit together. But the truth is that nothing in the assembly actually goes wrong. You just have a little gray metal gear that slips on its respective shaft. So looking at it as the sum of its parts is more beneficial, because instead of looking for a part that doesn't exist anywhere, for the most part you can repair 9 out of 10 of these odometers. Let's look at some other parts, see what our approach to them is. First part I'm going to show you is a subframe mount for a 123. This is one part. you can't break it down into multiple parts. Sure, at one point it was multiple parts. It was a metal outer shell, a metal inner insert, and a rubber cushioning part that went inside the parameter of the subframe, and the whole thing was coated in rubber. This is a great, this is a great example of a Mercedes part that you have to replace as a whole unit. So my plea to Mercedes would be, don't stop making these. These are made by a company called Reko in Germany, R-E-K-O, and they're really high quality, nice subframe mounts, so they do still make them. But let's look at another assembly. This is more of a 50s part. It's made by Nest, also makes filters, but this is a filter. This is a part many of you have never seen. It's used on Mercedes W120 and 121 and 180 and 128 chassis cars with the fuel filter and the fender. And this lever switches between the main fuel supply and the reserve. And I got this from my friend Henry Coelho at HMC Mercedes. So if you're looking for NOS parts, HMC Mercedes is a great resource. But this part, even though it's a complex aluminum housing, because it's a 50s part, you can tell it's got a cover here and a little snap ring, so you can take the whole thing apart and put new seals in it. The only reason to replace this would be because the aluminum housing is damaged or someone cracked it, or in some cases somebody threw it away because they didn't understand how it works. And that's the real danger today. People look at superbly engineered parts like this. I would say that this is a type of superior engineering because it's durable and repairable. You build it once and repair it for several lifetimes. You know, the part doesn't really have an expiration date. And in fact, as O-ring technology improves, the time between rebuilds increases. Think about that. The subcomponent, the metal casting, is extremely high quality, but we can improve it today with better O-rings. But people look at technology like this, they don't understand how it works, and what do? They discard it. We see a lot of 190 SLs where these are missing. Why? There's no reason to get rid of the part. It was a good part to begin with. Now let's look at some parts that don't look repairable or rebuildable, but they actually are. This is a air cleaner bracket from an OM617 engine, and Mercedes, for some reason, does not make these anymore. You can tell I've had this one extensively welded because this part separated from this part. And while this isn't a genuine Mercedes unit, it's also not one of the flimsy MTC units that are made in Taiwan. I don't know who made this. All I know is it's repairable enough to where I can now paint it or get it zinc plated and put it back on a car. And because it's made of one repairable substance and it's not load bearing, rubber is load bearing, so you can't repair rubber. But metal is a repairable substance. So would I throw away an air cleaner bracket that's broken? Absolutely not. I take it out and get it welded, and this thing will probably provide good service for a car for 50,000 miles or more, as long as the engine mounts are good. Let's look at one more item. This is the fuel tank hose from a 380 SL. And to many of you, it doesn't look like a serviceable item, but the way I see it, this item has three parts. It has its ferrule, its fitting, and its rubber hose. The rubber hose is a bulk din rubber hose. You can buy this. This is the same hose as the 123 power steering hose. You can buy this as a separate part from Coline. You can buy the ferrule from Coline, and it's made by Coline. I wish I knew what kind of crimper they used because it's beautiful, this crimp. But you can buy a 4024 crimper, and that leaves your fitting, which is the most complicated part of the assembly, and the one part that you get to keep. Everything else has to get thrown away. This is sacrificial, but this is not. So I don't throw away fuel hoses because in case I can't get the entire hose, I can use this one part to rebuild it. Now let's think about something for a little bit before I go. Do modern cars have this kind of repairability built into them? I'm not that familiar with modern cars, but I think some components like ECUs have been reverse engineered so that they are repairable. But I'm talking about the car as a whole. What components in some of the more modern Mercedes are repairable? Which ones are no longer available and require somebody to really use their thinking cap to come up with a solution? In the 1950s, when Mercedes built cars, which we're going to talk about in another video, Mercedes used components that were readily available to construct amazing cars, focusing on developing three parts of the car that were unique: proprietary castings, proprietary engine, transmission, and axle parts. I know it sounds complicated, but they weren't going to go just buy a DIN number gear off the shelf. And number three, unique exterior and interior trim parts. Everything else on those cars were made of components that were available somewhere else already. And as Mercedes developed as a company and became more technologically enabled, they were able to diversify the number of items that were uniquely engineered on each car. But eventually it became like that to their detriment. And things got very complicated. And that happened in the entire automotive industry. So you can't exchange a water pump on, a 2005 Land Rover for one on a 2010 Land Rover. On a 1972 Mercedes, you can take a water pump from a 1985 300D, rebuild it, and put it on the 72. Idea. You won't see that in a modern car. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. And thank you so much to our Patreon supporters and our newest subscribers. We really appreciate you guys making our channel more visible to others. Thank you.
You